In this demo, we will understand what is data binding and how to implement it, and study two more property keys which are notify and read only. I have set up this hello element.html as part of this data binding folder, and I have made a few changes to this code that we have seen earlier. I have removed this reflective attribute properties for both this message and then message date properties, and I have included the paper input control here, and let us take a look at how this template is set up now. Now the template has a instance of paper input element that we have borrowed here, and whose value property is actually data bound with the message, which happens to be a property of this particular element. So therefore, when this particular element is instantiated, which is the hello element, what happens is the initial value which is available as part of this message property will be bound to this particular input control. So therefore, you get a copy of that here. And also observe that we are printing this message in the DOM structure because of this data binding element here. And so therefore, initially whatever is the value which is available as part of the message will get printed as part of the DOM. So this is what we have done so far. So let us shift to the browser and then observe the output as of now. So this is the paper input control, where this hello user is the initial value that is borrowed from the message property of the hello element, and then it is data bound here. And this is the second set of data binding element that we have included as part of the template tag. So since this is a paper input element, we could certainly add additional content here. So when we add the additional content, observe that this particular DOM element is not getting updated. That's the first observation. Let us now understand the reasons behind it. Let us select this hello element from the elements, and then let's go to console. So therefore, $0 right now represents the hello element instance. So if we type message now, so you could see that there is a hello user which is the current value which is being held in the message property. When in the hello-element.html this particular instance is created, it has initialized the message property to contain hello user, and because of the data binding we have used here, these values are actually reflected here. So that means that the values of a given element are getting reflected as part of this. But the changes which are made over here, they are not flowing back to this particular element instance. So in conclusion, we can say that the element data, which is known as the source here, is flowing into this target, but the target modifications are not actually flowing back to this source. This scenario is actually known as the one-way binding. Now let us see how we achieve the two-way binding. So in order to achieve two-way binding, we make a little modifications to this code. Instead of this regular brackets, we use these flower brackets and set up this code, and then let us see what happens. Let us refresh this. So as a consequence, we have the hello user getting displayed here from the element instance. And now if I make any changes to this, you could see that this particular DOM is also getting updated. So what is happening is, whatever are the changes that you are making here, because it is two-way bounded, this information is flowing back to the element properties, and from the properties again this particular DOM is getting updated. That's why whatever we are typing here, the same consequence is happening, and then the DOM is getting updated with this. So this is how essentially the two-way binding works. The point to remember here is that the two-way binding is essentially carried forward with this particular expression of using two flower brackets on each side of this property. Polymer offers two more keys which are notify and read only in order to have greater control on this data binding process. Let us implement notify first. So we add this additional key called notify, which is equated to true now. And as a consequence, what happens is anytime there is a change in the value property of this message, it is going to trigger a event called message hyphen changed. So the naming convention would be whatever is the property name hyphen changed that gets appended, and that is the event name that is getting triggered because of this. So let us now include a message hyphen changed event. So if you just look at this now, in the ready you are attaching a event. So you are adding this add event listener, and if you observe the name of this event, it is message hyphen changed. So according to this notify, whenever there is a change in the value of the message property, it triggers message hyphen changed. So as a consequence, we are writing a small function here. We are actually doing a console.log of that particular event. So this is a simple functionality that we are implementing here. Let us see how this is reflecting in the browser. Let us refresh this to reflect the changes. So now let us add some content. You can see that each time I change the content here, the DOM is getting updated here because of the two-way data binding, and also there is a new event which is getting triggered because we said the notify to be true, and also we have written a event handler called message hyphen change, and this is the event that gets raised each time there is a change in the message property of the hello element. Now let us take a look at the read only key. Let us replace this notify true with the read only being true, and see how it behaves in the browser. Let me just refresh this. You could observe that the elements properties are actually captured, and then they are propagated to this DOM and then the paper input control here. But when we make any change to this in the DOM, this is not getting reflected as part of the element now. So that is happening because of the read only property, which says that only for the first time when the element is getting instantiated, the values from the element properties are copied to the DOM, and subsequent changes are ignored from there on.